You mentioned in meditation it's communing with the divine. Is there something more to Kriya Yoga than just our own self-effort? Like how does this work with communing with the divine?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because we've seen that we don't do this all by ourselves. In a way, what we're doing is that prayer and meditation, we are tuning into the divine. We are tuning into God. Whatever way you relate to God, there's a power and an energy and a strength that's just much greater than our own. Swami Kriyananda talked about this, and again, there's a chapter in the book that talks about how true spiritual practices and techniques are a way of cooperating with grace. And again, this is referring to the art and the science. What this means, cooperating with grace, is that, as I was just saying a minute ago, when we sit up straight, raise our eyes, look upwards, we start to raise the energy and we start to feel uplifted. At the same time, we're tuning in to a divine flow of energy within ourselves, and we're cooperating with doing the right actions, the right practices that cooperate with an energy that's already here within ourselves. So we're not creating a new energy within ourselves. We're cooperating with these natural flows of energy that really want to aspire, to lift upwards. And when you tune into that energy, you are carried along on that energy, which is divine grace. And some people teach that divine grace is just something that's just given to us. Passively, we wait for it and it comes. Some people teach the opposite, that only by self-effort do we ever become free, and it all depends on our own heroic efforts. But really, it's a cooperation with God, with the saints also. There's an analogy used by a great Indian saint, and it's shared in the book also, where cooperating with grace is very much like someone who, trying to use self-effort, walks along the banks of a river and tries to make progress by wading through the mud, through the thickets, through the brambles, through the trees, and going along the side of the river and trying to make progress just with their own effort. Cooperating with grace, the analogy here, is that you go out into the river and you have to put out the effort to go out into the river. It's not passive. You wade through the mud. You have to swim out to the river a little bit. But when you get out to the center of the river, there's a very strong current flowing downstream. And you go into that strong central current, and then your efforts end, or they don't really end, they take you to the point where you are caught in this very strong, powerful current of divine grace, is what we're talking about really in meditation. And our part is to do everything we can with practices, with techniques, to enter into that flow of grace and to cooperate with it and work with it. This also means, of course, that in our daily lives, we can't just sit in meditation and be really spiritual in meditation and then go out during the day and be mean to people and be rude and be an awful human being, because in a way we're defeating that efforts that we make by not cooperating. It's pretending that all we have to do is go to church and we'll be saved and we'll be freed and we'll be spiritual, when it's a whole way of life again. And so cooperating with grace also means acting in saint-like ways if we can, even if it's just not a pretense, but even if we have to make the effort to be good and the effort to be kind. We find that just simply by actively and proactively being kind to others, for example, during the day, that also gets us into this flow of divine grace. And over time, if we do it in the right way, with a conscious awareness that it's not just our own kindness, but in a way it's divine kindness that we're working with and that is flowing through us, then it makes it easier. And this is why Yogananda, he said that with practice like Kriya Yoga, that yes, it does take effort. We have to use willpower. We have to use some discipline. But that when we do it in the right way of cooperating with this grace, then as he put it, your efforts end in ease. And that's when you put out the effort in a single meditation or throughout life to get to that central current in the river where we are carried very quickly towards the divine ocean of divine understanding. And so this is this idea of cooperating with grace. It also works with cooperating with the divine teacher and guide. In India, this is called the guru. And this is really also part of the path of Kriya Yoga, is that it is given as part of a process of following a teacher or a guru, and not this, there's a lot of misconceptions about what that means, but simply what it means is following the teacher's advice and guidance on how to practice these things. And when we do that, that's when we get results. And again, I've seen this over many decades and thousands of Kriya Yogis.